So I am gonna destroy your mind right now, but sometimes, some things in this game aren't very well balanced. So much so, in fact, that GMs descend upon Reddit and Discord in fury to declare them banned for all time. These are probably the most powerful class features and abilities in D&D, but they are definitely the most complained about and banned. Let's go. Portent. I am not burying the lead here. Portent is the most famously overpowered ability in this game. Divination wizards get this as their first subclass feature, and it lets you roll 2d20 at the start of each day and record your results. Then, anytime a creature makes an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can substitute their result for one of the results you got that morning. Why is this broken? Well, it removes chance from the game. You can guarantee an enemy fails a saving throw. You'd think you'd want to roll high on your Portent dice, and if you do, that's fine, but what you really want is to give an enemy a bad roll when you hit them with a banishment or a polymorph, and boom, you just beat the Kraken. If you thought Silvery Barbs was annoying, and it is, this is that times 100, and it single-handedly makes Divination Wizards arguably the most powerful subclass in the game. The problem is that without this ability, Divination Wizards kind of suck, so it's not like you can ban this and keep the subclass around. They revolve around this feature. As such, this is probably the most banned wizard in the game, and arguably the most game warping as well. Silver Tongue. Speaking of guaranteeing enemy failure, what about guaranteeing your success? The Silver Tongue is the third level feature of the Eloquence Bard. Whenever you make a persuasion or deception check and you roll lower than a 10, you can treat the result as a 10. A natural 1 becomes a 10. And at first, that might not seem too broken. This isn't making your best persuasion check any better, it's just raising the floor. Still, assuming that you're only level 3, with 16 in charisma, this gives you a minimum persuasion or deception check of 17, and that jumps to a minimum of 20 when you reach level 5. This lets you pull some ridiculous shenanigans in roleplay, storming through encounters with incredible charm or impossible to detect lies. Now, get ready to dislike the video, because I think this ability is banned way more than it should be. A lot of people forget that a 20 on a persuasion check doesn't mean someone has to do what you say. It is not mind control. You can't persuade someone to do something that they would never do, even with a 40 in your persuasion check. However, it is true that the simple, low-level influence you have over everyone you meet is game warping. Every social check you make ever will, at the very least, not go badly. And there is no resource attached to this feature. This is all the time, all day, for the entire game. Just like with Portent, it kills any variance. It takes away the point of rolling dice from D&D. Although it is arguably less powerful than Portent, it is banned way more often on account of single-handedly smashing its way through politically driven campaigns. Twilight Sanctuary. So it turns out the most powerful healing in this game is just a nun holding a nightlight. Twilight Sanctuary creates a 30-foot radius of dim light that emanates from your cleric and gives 1d6 plus your cleric level temporary hit points to all allies that end their turn in that area. That is a big area, by the way, and this is no concentration, it just happens for 1 minute. This is wild. This is a regenerating pool of hit points for the entire party, and it's one of those ones that you kind of have to see in action to get a feel for how strong it is. If you're a GM who's ever run a campaign with one of these guys in it, it is a nightmare to significantly damage anyone. At just level 2, over the course of a couple of rounds, this has doubled everyone's hit point total. It stacks on top of other healing features and damage resistances, and it's basically free and incredibly hard to shut down. It also ends the charmed and frightened conditions as well. There's another busted cleric ability we're going to get to, but on paper, this one probably takes the cake as the strongest cleric ability in the game. In any battle of attrition, I want to say this makes it almost impossible for the players to lose. You basically have to run a monster so powerful that it one-shots a player upon hitting them to challenge a party with this level of regeneration. And I can get why many GMs just don't want to deal with that.
Hello, I'm here to return this book. It doesn't work. What do you mean it doesn't work? I tried to bludgeon a goblin to death with it and it didn't work. It's not beefy enough. I need a beefy book. You're looking for a book with so much content you could use it to bludgeon a sentient creature to death. Yes. Well then, it sounds like you need Scepter of the Lightbringer.
The Scepter of the Lightbringer is a 700+ page behemoth expansion to Dungeons & Dragons. A massive sandbox world with 3 fully developed cities, hundreds of NPCs, encounters, monsters, magic items, mysteries, and dungeons. 24 new subclasses, 20 dungeon maps, new spells, new feats, 12 factions for the ultimate urban investigation and exploration campaign, and a full rules expansion for creating and running your own businesses in-game.
Wow, that's a book big enough to bludgeon a whole family of goblins to death with.
It's also VTT ready for Roll20 and Foundry. You can even become an NPC in the adventure if you back at the NPC tier, like me. I'm in the book. Grab the ultimate politically driven adventure expansion to D&D today. Scepter of the Lightbringer, the Behemoth D&D expansion, is out now on Kickstarter. Inured to Death. This is one of the greatest features of all time. Level 10, Necromancy Wizard, your hit point total cannot be reduced. Why is it so strong? Because of this little bastard. This is Create Margin, and it lets you create a CR3 Galvan Margin under your control, which is pretty good. It's basically a permanent summoning spell. It's balanced by its cost, which says that after you create the Margin, your maximum hit point is reduced by a total equal to its CR, so you get a permanent debuff in exchange for a permanent familiar. Except, thanks to Inured to Death, your hit point total cannot be reduced, so you just made a free CR3 companion. Well, it costs you 500 gold, but you get the idea. Rinse and repeat, and you can create an army of these things. Infinite soldiers, infinite action economy, infinite damage, very cool. This one is obviously busted. It clearly shouldn't be allowed in anything except the memeiest of games. Replicate magic item. So this is an infusion that Artificers get at level 2, which lets them create any common magic item or any magic item from this table, note the bag of holding. This feature is crazy. You can create spell-wrought tattoos which contain a first level spell slot and give them to anyone, letting anyone cast any first level spell. This can let you do ridiculous things like giving your familiar a spell-wrought tattoo with the spell Find Familiar inside. Your familiar can then cast Find Familiar. You can then give that familiar a spell-wrought tattoo with the spell Find Familiar inside, and so on. You can create an infinite chain of familiars. You can then give every familiar a tattoo of Magic Missile and deal infinite damage. You can do this because Spell-wrought Tattoo technically creates a needle, which is consumed upon use, and it then gives someone a tattoo which can be used to cast the spell. Basically, you only need one needle ever at a time, so you can use it, it's consumed, you make another one, give it to someone else, etc. You could also craft 2 bags of holding, stuff them into each other, and create an interdimensional bomb. I've made a whole video about this, and you can do it in such a way that it takes out any creature of any CR that doesn't have the ability to teleport across dimensions at 0 risk to yourself. Basically, yeah, replicate magic item is OP. Most people don't ban the feature altogether, they just ban the ridiculously strong items you can make with it. No bags of holding, no spell-wrought tattoos. Even then, it's still really good. It's free, there's no gold required, and it's this type of feature which is why we don't let engineering students play Dungeons & Dragons. Bonding Clerics. There is nothing peaceful about beating enemies to death with a lead pipe, but that's exactly what Peace Clerics enable with their emboldening bond feature. Choose a few allies and boom, they get plus 1d4 to an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw every single turn as long as they're within 30 feet. That is not a concentration effect, which means you can stack on Bless. Bless adds 1d4 to attack rolls and saving throws, that is plus 2d4 to the first attack roll creatures make every single turn. And you can do all of that at level 1, or just with a single level dip into Peace Cleric. This is a filthy bonus to attack rolls and saves. It's arguably better than the Twilight Cleric's feature because it comes a level earlier, and although that one helps keep everyone alive, this helps the party murder everyone else. If everyone else is dead, who cares how many hit points you have? It's worth noting that a lot of this combo's power comes from how it nullifies the penalty to the 2014 feats Sharpshooter and Great Weapon Master. They give a -5 penalty to your attack rolls for plus 10 damage, and this feature gives you an average of plus 5 to your attack rolls, essentially nullifying that penalty. It's plus 10 damage per hit at essentially no cost. Barbarians with the Great Weapon Master feat go crazy with this, and it's combos like that that push it over the edge. The consensus on the D&D Shorts Discord was that this is fine, even in the early game, as long as it doesn't stack with Bless, and you don't let people use the 2014 versions of Sharpshooter and Great Weapon Master. If you use the new ones, it's okay. But if you let this go fully unchecked in the 2014 rules, yeah, it's pretty insane. Arcane Abience. Everyone loves Matt Mercer, but if you ask someone who's just experienced the full horror of his Chronergy Wizard what they think of the guy, you're gonna get some pretty choice words. Arcane Abience is the 10th level Chronergy Wizard feature, and it lets you store a 4th level spell or lower into a bead. Any creature can then use an action to release the spell stored inside that bead, and it treats that creature as the caster, except it uses your spell save DC. Why is this so good? Because it lets you pass off your concentration spells to another creature, letting you concentrate on something else. You can store the spell Sickening Radiance in a bead, hand that bead over to your familiar can use an action to cast it, and hold concentration. You can then throw up a wall of force with your own concentration, trapping enemies inside the area of the Sickening Radiance. Those enemies then die. They can't escape the wall of force, and Sickening Radiance will kill them, dealing 4d10 damage every round and giving a point of exhaustion. This is what we call the microwave, and given the fact that it's basically guaranteed death with zero chance of escape for entire groups of enemies at a time, it's not surprising most GMs ban or nerf it in some way. Throw on the fact that Chronergy Wizards get what is essentially silvery barbs for free as their 2nd level feature, and you can see why this subclass is so often cut down. Vessel buffs. So all Genie Warlocks get a vessel, like an oil lamp or a bottle, which is essentially their own personal extra-dimensional space. You can use an action to teleport inside once per long rest and leave it as a bonus action. It's your pocket dimension home away from home. And the broken part is you can put anything you like inside. You can also pull allies inside there with you once you reach level 10. That means a wizard or a cleric pal can come on in and deck the halls with glyphs of warding. That spell lets you store other spells inside magical glyphs, which trigger upon a command word. You speak the command word, and the spell stored inside the glyph is cast on you. And get this, those spells don't require concentration. You heard that right. The spells stored in a glyph of warding do not require concentration. They just last their full duration on the creature that triggered them. You can prep Haste, Enlarge Reduce, Tenzer's Transformation, Death Ward, Aid, Greater Invisibility, Bless, Fly, and Polymorph inside your Genie Vessel, with the trigger words, "Here I go killing again." Then you get into combat, use your action to pop inside your vessel, say, "Here I go killing again," and every single one of those spells will be cast on you. You can then pop out as a bonus action and attack immediately with your hasted action. You are a flying, gargantuan, invisible T-Rex with buffs to your attack rolls and saving throws, and you don't die even when you fall to 0 hit points. And you're still not concentrating on anything. Now, Glyph of Warding is supposed to break if the glyph is ever moved, but the glyphs actually don't move. They stay static inside your pocket dimension, which you carry around. So this is all technically within the rules. And the phrase "technically within the rules" is the most dangerous phrase in Dungeons & Dragons. Although it's not as broken, this feature can let you do other cool things, like letting you hide inside your vessel and have your imp familiar turn invisible and fly you around. While the imp is invisible, so is everything that it's carrying. So you essentially have an invisible jet the entire party can pile into, which is a disgustingly strong infiltration tool. Full disclosure, this is one of my favorite features in the entire game. But yes, Glyph of Warding cheese is absolutely broken in anything but the most memey of games. It gets banned pretty damn quick, and you know what? That's fair enough. Illusion locks. So illusion wizards make illusions, except when they don't. From level 14, they just make stuff. When you cast an illusion spell of 1st level or above, you choose one inanimate object as part of that illusion, and it becomes real for 1 minute. The object can't deal damage or hurt anyone, but also, who cares? You can do this as often as you like. This turns the 1st level spell, Silent Image, which you can cast as often as you like with the Misty Visions invocation, transformation, by the way, into repeatable adamantine cages. Just create a barred cage around any enemy, and boom, they are trapped in place. You can then blast away at them until they die. You can do the same thing with adamantine handcuffs, or really anything you'd like. You can also use the seeming spell to put illusory heavy armor on an enemy spellcaster, then make that heavy armor real so they can't cast spells. Boom! Lich is completely taken care of. They're also moving slower, and heavy armor takes 10 minutes to take off. Honestly, this is one of those features which is kind of intended to be game-breaking, and it comes at level 14, so I think it's actually fine. Yes, it is incredibly strong, but the Illusion Wizard isn't that great until it actually gets this feature, so it's almost like a trade-off. Even so, people hate it, because like a lot of features we've seen already, it does automatically turn off a bunch of encounters without any challenge. So I get why people like it banned. Monk Drop. So this one is from the newest monk subclass, the Elements Monk, and it is kind of controversial. Warrior of the Elements at 3rd level says whenever you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can move that creature up to 10 feet towards or away from you as it's embroiled in elemental energy. The theory here is simple. If you're standing next to an enemy, you can push them 10 feet up directly away from you on a hit. They will then fall back down, land prone, and take an additional 1d6 fall damage. Now, all your future attacks will have advantage against them, and you can do this 3 times a turn from level 3, 5 times a turn from level 10. That's 5d6 additional damage and a free knock prone every turn at 0 cost. And to me, this makes total sense. I could totally see an elementally powered monk uppercutting someone with fire and knocking them 10 feet into the air. The flip side, however, is this essentially turns your 1d6 monk starting damage dice into a 2d6 monk starting damage dice, which is as hard-hitting as a greatsword. Monks used to be pretty bad, so I'm actually open to throwing them this bone, but many GMs insist that any feature that moves an enemy towards or away from you has to work horizontally. There is no rule that says that, but it does prevent this type of cheesy interaction. Also, for balance reasons in the early game, maybe it is a little too good. Fighters with great swords and only 2 attacks per turn have been real quiet since this dropped. And there you have the class and subclass features most often banned in Dungeons & Dragons, or at the very least, the ones I see complained about most often online. But if you want a ton of awesome stuff that is well balanced and exciting for your games, then please check out the D&D Shorts Patreon linked below. There's free stuff you can download there, and if you choose to support the channel, you get access to monthly drops of D&D content that I create, including new subclasses, species, and full adventures. That's every single month. It also helps make this channel possible, despite the terrifying insecurity of existing inside the world of YouTube ad revenue. Also, remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and yeah, that's all I got. I'll see you next time.